Hello viewers, I'm Ron Grant coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. Of course, my home, my paradise. It is an honor to always be bringing you the latest in local, regional, and world news and entertainment. Today I am honored to be joined by the one and only Dean, the Sportsman Greenaway. Believe it or not, he is celebrating some 35 years of journalism. The iconic voice that we hear ever so often at sporting events on the radio is here to talk about his journey, and I'm honored. We're going to get into the details of how he got started and what the past 35 years have been like with the one and only Dean, the Sportsman Greenaway. All this after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 Media.
You value traditions.
Today,
You value music. You value education. Family.
I love you.
Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
Viewers, welcome back. As promised, I am joined by Dean, the Sportsman Greenaway. Dean, first of all, welcome back. And second of all, congratulations on 35 years of journalism in the British Virgin Islands as well as the U.S. Virgin Islands. Welcome.
Thank you, Ron, and thanks for having me, and thanks for highlighting how long I've been doing a lot of nothing, really.
Well, I have to, and not a lot of nothing. I have to because it's been more time that I've been on this earth. So I am honored, and I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you.
Thank you.
35 years. One of the things that I must admit, and one of the things that I truly appreciate you is your iconic voice. When you hear it, you know it. You're engaged, and you bring life to whatever you're speaking about. How did you get started in journalism? Was this a hobby? Was this a career path? What possessed you to become who you are?
Well, let me go back to the roots. I think I was about maybe 14 or 15. I used to be around the rocks. I saw magazines, and I said, one day I'd like to write for a magazine, take pictures, and travel. And I think it was only recently that I actually reflected on that. But after I returned from college at the University of Colorado, I came home. I used to tell my friends that, you know, oh, we don't have nobody along the road begging you for money and stuff like that. And I came home this summer, and I'm down in the Solva George's Plaza, and one of my classmates, of course, came asking me for money, much to my shock and amazement to see what had happened to him. And then I started writing commentaries with the BVI Beacon. That was back in 1985. So I'm actually writing for 36 years, but 35 years in journalism.
Understood.
Then in 1986, Carl Dawson, he was the sports writer for the BVI Beacon. He went on to become the president of the college. And because I was writing the commentaries, they know I was involved with sports. I was still competing and representing the BVI. They asked me if I would be interested in writing sports. I said, sure. And I started to expand the coverage to include more things in local sports that was happening. And then I took a journalism course. And so I started writing with them in 1986 through 1997. And along the way, I wanted, because my focus was on local sports and I saw a lot of what was happening, I started to expand. There was a guy at ZBVI who put me on to the Caribbean News Agency. So I used to be a correspondent with particularly cricket and football for the Caribbean News Agency. And then in 1999, I started being a sports correspondent from over here for the Daily News. And then I say, you know, yeah, but I'd like this to be a little bit more regular so you could tell people what's going on. So I approached both ZBVI and Z-Rod about supplying them with sports. I had a meeting with Rodney, and in the middle of the meeting, I said, look, I'm going to send you this stuff. You're going to get an email. Your on-air personnel is going to read it. And he go, oh, why don't you come in and do it? I go, no. Not me, no, that's not me. I air for radio, I'm a writer, and I gonna get into foot. He said, nah man, come on now, we can work with you. He never worked with me, but they left me there, they invite me to do that. And I remember very clearly, it was October 19th, 1994. And it was a Wednesday, and he wanted me to start the Monday. I got him to delay it until November 4th.
Okay.
My brother used to be in radio at ZBVI, the Black Machine. He's the first person I call in shock, tell him what happened.
Yes.
And then, I was writing my sports. So on the 25th of October 1994, I walked, because back then the computers weren't as prevalent as we had, the email and all that. I walked into the BVI beacon because I was searching for a name. What would my radio name be? And then I walk into the beacon and one of the reporters go, oh, here comes the Sportsman. I said, yes, that's it. Dean the Sportsman Greenaway. So
Beautiful.
Dean the Sportsman Greenaway was born at 7:20 p.m. on October 25th, 1994. And last Monday,
and it has stuck with you.
November 1st, was my 27th anniversary on Z-Rod Sports.
On
so
radio.
I still do sports for Z-Rod, and I also do sports for ZCC app. So my focus is on local sports, promoting what is happening here. When I growing up, I'd listen, I could tell you who was on the West Indies team, what happened in the United States and all that, but you didn't know what was happening here. And I changed that. So now ZBVI has somebody that actually does sports and try to do what I do. But I have, on a daily basis, you can always probably hear me talking, interviewing somebody who would never have been involved with sports.
No doubt about that. Writing, of course, for magazine, the Sports Beat, Z-Rod Sports, radio. When you look back at your 35-year-long career, what are you most proud of?
I really haven't had a time to look back because I'm always planning something else. Because how I actually got into this stuff is a hobby for me. I came home in 1980 because I had qualified to go to the Olympics, but the BVI didn't have an Olympic committee. So we couldn't go to the Olympics, which was in Moscow, Russia. And there was a man in East End I knew used to be active, that he died. And he retired about a year and a half, 2 years before. And he went home and sat down and he deteriorated. And I said to myself, I was 21 years old at the time. I said, I know I'm going to die, but I don't want to just die like that. Just go and sit down doing nothing. So I planned my retirement before I had a job and know what I wanted to do. I know what I wanted to do when I retire. I wanted to be writing, which I was supposed to get into in my 40s, but it came long before that because I was writing the commentaries, then the sports. And it came as a hobby to me because I like to write. And I've been encouraging people to write and get involved with things like this. So far, I've only succeeded in getting one little girl, Nia Davies. I'm so proud of her. She goes to sports nowadays with me, and they call her my assistant. She takes photos. So I'm happy to see that. But I think when I look back, I think they bring in people who would not have had their voices heard on the radio, interviewing kids who would have gone on to represent the BVI in different sports, and I was the first person that they interview and explaining to them that, hey, if you reach at a certain level, this is your first interview, this is where you start, and be prepared in the future to be able to answer questions when anybody asks you a question. Those are the things to me that stand out because I came up, I didn't have anybody to do this when I was doing sports. but now I have an opportunity to help others. And my goal has always been trying to help others get a better opportunity than I had.
Absolutely, and essentially giving a voice to the voiceless.
Yes,
Beautiful.
definitely.
I must ask you, because you mentioned about really starting out with commentary. In the recent times, I'd say we have a lot of issues that are plaguing us, but when Dean, the Sportsman Greenaway, speaks, when he makes a post, whether it's about a pothole, whether it's about a water issue, whether it's about consumer protection, more than likely, they seem to be answered, or the overgrown bush in a particular area. Having started out with our social commentary, and 35 years later, would you say that a lot of the issues that you started out speaking about, some of those that I just mentioned, are still some of the issues that you still speak about today?
Exactly. Consumer Protection Agency, I harped on that from 1985. The condition of our roads. You know, come on. In a country that had a budget of $23.1 million in 1985, that is over $400 million now. We can't have better roads, water 24/7 for everybody. There is no reason why in this country we can't have water. I have friends that tell me, oh, sometime in Lower Estate or in Bargos Bay or in Carrot Bay or wherever, they don't have water. Seacoast Bay. Why? How can that happen? So when I retired from government, I decided I would start to get back into writing, but I decided against that, and it was easier to use social media.
Yes.
Because most people aren't reading a lot, but they would react to a picture or things that I do. And I think the fact that I started out, my roots has been on social problems. People are able to connect who remember from before.
Yeah.
And people in high places, they would remember that I was going to always tell you like it is, no matter who you are, what. This needed to be done because what I am doing, I see it as benefiting the masses.
You call that relatable representation.
Yes, this isn't about me. It's things I see need to be done.
Yes.
If you are a leader, you are in a position to do something, I think you should do it. And not all this politicking and that. Hey, give people water. Give us a protection agent, a consumer protection agency. Fix the roads. Cut the bush. That's not too hard. That should not come down to politics when public work should be doing something, but you're going to have a minister saying, oh, you're taking money out, bread out of my guys' mouth. Listen, we're paying taxes. So I am passionate about these things, and I want to see the best for the country, because the amount of people in positions who travel the world and come back here and accept the crap that we put up with, that should not be. And I don't know why it happens. And
I totally
everything
agree with
here is what a politician thinks. There's more ideas at the bottom than at the top. So it ain't just what a politician thinks. It is what is in the best interest and development for the people. You're talking about, you're working for us, but if you're working for us, we only the things that you want are priority. Because there's no reason why we shouldn't have had a consumer protection agency. And I tell you, this 36 years I wrote about that. Okay? The road conditions shouldn't be like it the way they are now. Youth involvement in sport activities. It's nowhere, if you look through the legislature now, of the 13 members, we have at least 9 that were involved with sports, some as coaches, some as presidents of organizations. And what we have for the youth, come on, this is a generation you are developing. You're going to tell them, oh, you're going to be the leaders of tomorrow and this and that. But we don't have the basic facilities, some basic
of the
minimum
generation
standards. That's what we need to have.
Speaking of the generation, two words that come to mind: impact and influence. When you reflect, and it's so amazing hearing you sharing your story of 35 years. But when you reflect on that, those are two words: impact and influence. I want to encourage you, and I'm going to be the first to say it. Cheers to 35 more years. Keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate you. I personally appreciate you, and I admire your grit and your work. But before we go, you mentioned social media. Not only do you touch on social commentary and sports, but you have a Facebook page that really highlights VI sports and culture. In closing, tell us about the purpose and significance of this remarkable Facebook page.
Those are my two passions, sports and culture. I born in St. Thomas, but I grew up Eastern with my grandmother. I was out on the reef catching fish. I was out on the reef. I learned to cook out there. A friend of mine named Sam, he teach me to cook rice. I hated going in the ground, but you get me out on the reef, I like out there. I try to combine my passion of sports and culture on the page. And what happened, I find that because we have so many people abroad, a lot of people connect with it because they see things that remind them of the past. We are in Culture Month. I thought there would be more activities engaging people in things that have happened. And I would like to see that. I think something like a cultural village, and this is something a friend of mine was telling me about up to yesterday, where you have people who are making bread, cleaning fish, doing hats, the whole 9 yards. They are in an area where tourists and locals can come in. You pay to go in. You can see how things are done. You can actually see what happens in life was like in the British Virgin Islands. You can walk off with samples of food. You can walk off with samples of hats made from straw and different things. You are seeing these things, and it's giving people an opportunity for employment. So when it comes to the aspect of both sports and culture, as I say, they are passions of mine, and I combine them. So the page, I started it about just over a year ago, and I think it has been attracting a lot of attention because for people who don't know it, it's VI Sports and Culture on Facebook page. And every day it's updated with what's happening in sports or things that's going on in culture.
Amazing. Viewers, there you had it, the iconic Dean, the Sportsman Greenaway. Cheers to 35 more years. We appreciate you, and we certainly you certainly hold a special place in our hearts. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ron.
Viewers, that's all the time we have. I'll see you later.